Welcome back to our Learn Psychology series. Today, we're exploring the different types of stress. Stress can be categorized into three major types: physical and environmental, psychological, and social. Physical and environmental stress. Physical stresses are demands that change the state of our body. We feel strained when we overexert ourselves physically, lack a nutritious diet, suffer an injury, or fail to get enough sleep. Environmental stresses are aspects of our surroundings that are often unavoidable, such as air pollution, crowding, noise, heat of the summer, winter cold, etc. Another group of environmental stresses are catastrophic events or disasters such as fire, earthquake, floods, etc. Psychological stress. These are stresses that we generate ourselves in our minds. These are personal and unique to the person experiencing them and are internal sources of stress. We worry about problems, feel anxiety, or become depressed. These are not only symptoms of stress, but they cause further stress for us. Some of the important sources of psychological stress are frustration, conflicts, internal and social pressures, etc. Frustration results from the blocking of needs and motives by something or someone that hinders us from achieving a desired goal. There could be a number of causes of frustration, such as social discrimination, interpersonal hurt, low grades in school, etc. Conflicts may occur between two or more incompatible needs or motives, e.g., whether to study dance or psychology. You may want to continue studies or take up a job. There may be a conflict of values when you are pressurized to take any action that may be against the values held by you. Internal pressures stem from beliefs based upon expectations from inside us to ourselves, such as, "I must do everything perfectly." Such expectations can only lead to disappointment. Many of us drive ourselves ruthlessly towards achieving unrealistically high standards in achieving our goals. Social pressures may be brought about from people who make excessive demands on us. This can cause even greater pressure when we have to work with them. Also, there are people with whom we face interpersonal difficulties, a personality clash, of sorts. Social stress. These are induced externally and result from our interaction with other people. Social events like death or illness in the family, strained relationships, trouble with neighbors are some examples of social stresses. These social stresses vary widely from person to person. Attending parties may be stressful for a person who likes to spend quiet evenings at home, while an outgoing person may find staying at home in the evenings stressful. A wide range of events and conditions can generate stress. Among the most important of these are major stressful life events, such as death of a loved one or personal injury, the annoying frequent hassles of everyday life, and traumatic events that affect our lives. Changes, both big and small, sudden and gradual, affect our life from the moment we are born. We learn to cope with small, everyday changes, but major life events can be stressful because they disturb our routine and cause upheaval. If several of these life events that are planned, e.g., moving into a new house, or unpredicted, e.g., breakup of a long-term relationship, occur within a short period of time, we find it difficult to cope with them and will be more prone to the symptoms of stress. A measure of stressful life events based on the above scale, known as the Presumptive Stressful Life Events Scale, has been developed for the Indian population by Singh, Kaur and Kaur. It is a self-rating questionnaire made up of 51 life changes, which a person may have experienced. Each of these life events is assigned a numerical value in terms of their severity. Death of a close family member, unexpected accident or trauma, illness of a family member, breakup with friend, appearing for examinations, change in eating habits are some of the life events that can cause stress. Factors such as age at which the event was first experienced, frequency of occurrence, duration of the stressful event, and social support must be studied in evaluating the relationship between stressful life events and the subsequent illness episode. These are the personal stresses we endure as individuals, due to the happenings in our daily life, such as noisy surroundings, commuting, quarrelsome neighbors, electricity and water shortage, traffic snarls, and so on. Attending to various emergencies are daily hassles experienced by a housewife. There are some jobs in which daily hassles are very frequent. These daily hassles may sometimes have devastating consequences for the individual, who is often the one coping alone with them, as others may not even be aware of them as outsiders. The more stress people report as a result of daily hassles, the poorer is their psychological well-being. Traumatic events include being involved in a variety of extreme events such as a fire, train or road accident, robbery, earthquake, tsunami, etc. The effects of these events may occur after some lapse of time and sometimes persist as symptoms of anxiety, flashbacks, dreams and intrusive thoughts, etc. Severe trauma can also strain relationships. Professional help will be needed to cope with them, especially if they persist for many months after the event is over. There are four major effects of stress associated with the stressed state, viz. Emotional, physiological, cognitive, and behavioral. Emotional effects. Those who suffer from stress are far more likely to experience mood swings and show erratic behavior that may alienate them from family and friends. In some cases, this can start a vicious circle of decreasing confidence, leading to more serious emotional problems. Some examples are feelings of anxiety and depression, increased physical tension, increased psychological tension, and mood swings. Physiological effects. When the human body is placed under physical or psychological stress, it increases the production of certain hormones, such as adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones produce marked changes in heart rate, blood pressure levels, metabolism, and physical activity. Although this physical reaction will help us to function more effectively when we are under pressure for short periods of time, it can be extremely damaging to the body in the long-term effects. Examples of physiological effects are release of epinephrine and norepinephrine, slowing down of the digestive system, expansion of air passages in the lungs, increased heart rate, and constriction of blood vessels. Cognitive effects. If pressures due to stress continue, one may suffer from mental overload. This suffering from high level of stress can rapidly cause individuals to lose their ability to make sound decisions. Faulty decisions made at home, in career, or at workplace may lead to arguments, failure, financial loss, or even loss of job. Cognitive effects of stress are poor concentration and reduced short-term memory capacity. Behavioral effects. Stress affects our behavior in the form of eating less nutritional food, increasing intake of stimulants such as caffeine, excessive consumption of cigarettes, alcohol, and other drugs such as tranquilizers, etc. Tranquilizers, a medicinal drug taken to reduce tension or anxiety, can be addictive and have side effects such as loss of concentration, poor coordination, and dizziness. Some of the typical behavioral effects of stress seen are disrupted sleep patterns, increased absenteeism, and reduced work performance. Examination anxiety. Common phenomenon. Tension or uneasiness. Examination nerves, worry, or fear of failure are normal for even the most talented student. Examination stress has been characterized as evaluative apprehension, or evaluative stress, and produces debilitating behavioral, cognitive, and physiological effects no different from those produced by any other stressor. High stress can interfere with the student's preparation, concentration, and performance. Persons who are high in test anxiety tend to perceive evaluative situations as personally threatening. In test situations, they are often tense, apprehensive, nervous, and emotionally aroused. High-test anxious students respond to examination stress with intense emotional reactions, negative thoughts about themselves, feelings of inadequacy, helplessness, and loss of status and esteem that impair their performance. While preparing for examinations, one must spend enough time for study, overview, and weigh one's strengths and weaknesses, discuss difficulties with teachers and classmates, plan a revision timetable, condense notes, space out revision periods, and most importantly on the examination day concentrate on staying calm. Exhaustion and burnout. Exhaustion is seen in the signs of chronic fatigue, weakness, and low energy. The mental exhaustion appears in the form of irritability, anxiety, feelings of helplessness, and hopelessness. This state of physical, emotional, and psychological exhaustion is known as burnout. Physical illnesses. Stress has been implicated in the development of cardiovascular disorders, high blood pressure, as well as psychosomatic disorders including ulcers, asthma, allergies, and headaches. Researchers estimate that stress plays an important role in 50 to 70% of all physical illnesses. Hans Selye, the father of modern stress research. Stress is a dynamic mental, cognitive state. It is a disruption in homeostasis or an imbalance that gives rise to a requirement for resolution of that imbalance or restoration of homeostasis. Generalized adaptation syndrome. Generalized adaptation syndrome, or GAS, is a model developed by Hans Selye that describes the body's physiological responses to stress. It consists of 3 stages: the alarm reaction stage, the resistance stage, and the exhaustion stage. Alarm reaction stage. This stage is triggered by the presence of a noxious stimulus or stressor, leading to the activation of the adrenal pituitary cortex system. This triggers the release of hormones producing the stress response. Now, the individual is ready for fight or flight. Resistance stage. If stress is prolonged, the resistance stage begins. The parasympathetic nervous system calls for more cautious use of the body's resources. The organism makes efforts to cope with the threat, as through confrontation. Exhaustion stage. Continued exposure to the same stressor or additional stressors drains the body of its resources and leads to the 3rd stage of exhaustion. The physiological systems involved in alarm reaction and resistance become ineffective, and susceptibility to stress-related diseases such as high blood pressure becomes more likely. Selye's model has been criticized for assigning a very limited role to psychological factors in stress. Researchers have reported that the psychological appraisal of events is important for the determination of stress. How people respond to stress is substantially influenced by their perceptions, personalities, and biological constitutions. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Learn Psychology series. Until next time, keep learning and stay curious.